The story of Esther is a powerful biblical narrative of courage, faith, and divine providence, set in the Persian Empire during the reign of King Ahasuerus. King Ahasuerus, Xerxes the Han of Persia, throws an extravagant feast lasting 180 days, showcasing his wealth and power. He then hosts a 7-day banquet for all in his kingdom, allowing them to drink freely. During the banquet, Ahasuerus commands Queen Vashti to appear before his guests to display her beauty. She refuses, possibly to maintain her dignity. Enraged, the king consults his advisors and decides to remove her from the throne. The king's advisors suggest a nationwide search for a new queen. Beautiful young women from across the Persian Empire are gathered and placed in a royal harem, receiving months of beauty treatments. Among them is Hadassah, Esther, a young Jewish orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai. She is taken to the palace, but hides her Jewish identity, as advised by Mordecai. Mordecai, a loyal Jew, works near the palace gates and stays informed about Esther's well-being. He advises her to trust in God's plan, but keep her Jewish heritage secret for safety. Esther wins the favor of Haggai, the royal eunuch in charge, and is given the best treatments and accommodations. When presented to the king, Ahasuerus is captivated by her beauty and grace, making her queen of Persia. While at the palace gates, Mordecai overhears a plot by two guards, Bigthan and Teresh, to assassinate King Ahasuerus. Mordecai informs Esther, who relays the warning to the king in Mordecai's name. The plot is investigated, and the conspirators are executed. The event is recorded in the royal chronicles, though Mordecai is not rewarded yet. The king promotes Haman, an Agagite, descendant of King Agag, enemy of Israel, to the highest position among his nobles. All officials must bow to him. Mordecai refuses to bow, likely due to his Jewish faith and ancestral enmity with the Agagites. Haman becomes furious and begins to seek revenge. Rather than punishing Mordecai alone, Haman devises a plan to destroy all Jews in the Persian Empire. He tells the king that the Jews have different customs and do not obey royal laws, convincing Ahasuerus to issue a decree for their destruction. Haman casts lots, to decide the execution date, the 13th day of Adar. A royal edict is sent out, sealing the fate of the Jews. The city of Susa is in confusion. Mordecai tears his clothes, puts on sackcloth, and mourns in the city. He sends a message to Esther, urging her to intervene on behalf of her people. Esther hesitates because approaching the king uninvited is punishable by death unless he extends his golden scepter. She has not been summoned for 30 days and fears for her life. Mordecai tells Esther, "Perhaps you were made queen for such a time as this." He reminds her that if she remains silent, deliverance will come from elsewhere, but she and her family will perish. Esther decides to act, asking Mordecai and the Jews to fast for 3 days. She prepares to approach the king, saying, "If I perish, I perish." Esther enters the throne room. The king extends his golden scepter. Instead of making her request immediately, she invites Ahasuerus and Haman to a private banquet. Haman is thrilled by the honor of dining with the royal couple, but is still furious about Mordecai. His wife Zeresh and friends advise him to build gallows to execute Mordecai. Haman constructs a 75-foot-high gallows and plans to ask the king for permission to hang Mordecai the next morning. That night, Ahasuerus cannot sleep and orders the royal chronicles to be read to him. The records reveal that Mordecai saved his life, but he was never rewarded. When Haman arrives to request Mordecai's execution, the king asks, "What should be done for the man the king delights to honor?" Haman, thinking it's about him, suggests dressing him in royal robes and parading him on a royal horse. The king orders Haman to do this for Mordecai. At the second banquet, Esther reveals she is Jewish and exposes Haman's plot to destroy her people. The king is enraged and leaves the room in anger. Haman begs Esther for mercy, but the king returns and misinterprets his pleading as an attack on the queen. The king orders Haman to be hanged on the very gallows he built for Mordecai. Justice is served. Since the previous decree cannot be revoked, the king allows Mordecai and Esther to issue a counter-decree permitting Jews to defend themselves. On the appointed day, the Jews successfully defend themselves and defeat their enemies. Over 75,000 foes are killed across the empire, but the Jews take no plunder. Mordecai is promoted to second in command, taking Haman's place. He issues laws that favor the Jewish people. To commemorate their deliverance, the Feast of Purim is established as an annual celebration of God's providence and Jewish survival. Esther remains a beloved and respected queen, ensuring the continued protection of the Jewish people in Persia. Though God's name is never mentioned, his presence is evident in the story. Esther and Mordecai's courage and faithfulness show how divine intervention works through human action.